All right, we'll get started here. So we got Scott Luttrell on, Senior Manager and Senior Sales Manager of New Business Development at ZoomInfo. Today we're talking top tools and tactics to exceed your sales goals in 2016. So, it's a crowded market out there, ton of tools you can be leveraging, probably more than ever before. There was a LinkedIn article yesterday from Nicholas, I'm going to butcher his last name, Kucherovsky, I want to say, that was showcasing, some of the VB insights and those, Lumascapes with all the logos on it. But all the new technologies that are, coming into the market, even since, Q1, I think there are about 84 that he counted, and there were a couple that, I've been speaking to lately and that we know about that weren't on there. So lots of tools. Sales has definitely changed over the past few years. Lots of information, new tactics that are available to you as a salesperson that are purely ethical and moral, and things that you can do to move the sale along and leverage that. So I'm the founder and CEO of Sales Hacker, Max Ouchler here, and I'm gonna introduce Scott in a second. But first, we have an agenda and we have some housekeeping rules. So the agenda is we're going through the pain points of prospecting, the essential toolkit for sales outreach. So there's the prospecting part, finding the right people to contact. There's the outreach part, contacting them. There's the cadence and messaging of that outreach. So when to contact people, how to contact people, what to contact them with, and then redefining those metrics that allow you to see as a manager if somebody's being productive, and as a rep, making sure the most productive that you can possibly be. So without any further delay, real quick, ask us any questions through hashtag ZoomInfoWebinar or SHWebinar. Ask us any questions on the side panel here on GoToWebinar, and then we will answer your questions at the end of the session, and the recording will be up in the next 48 hours, so you will be able to see it again, share it with your team, and whatever else. Keep asking questions on Twitter even afterwards. If you have more questions, we will try our best to get back to you. So I'm going to let you take it from here, Scott. Go for it.
Great. Really appreciate it, Max. Thanks for having me today. Really happy to be here. So today, tips and tricks to be successful and crush your goals in 2016. So know we've got some managers on the line. Know we've got some sales reps on the line. So try to be relevant to everyone out there. So just bear with me. But let's just first start with what it's going to take to be successful in 2016 and beyond. And that's really prospecting. It's really filling the funnel with the right prospects, getting more conversations, more sales. All right, so let's start with the pain points. And I mean, honestly, there could be one bullet point here that just says everything, because prospecting stinks. No one likes to do it. It's hard. You get beat up. It's not fun. If someone tells you they like to prospect, they're either lying or just a plain psychopath, because it's just terribly hard. So let's talk about some of the nuances of why it's hard. All right, so big reason why it's hard is reps just don't have the time to do it. All right, so according to SiriusDecision, 65% of reps are spending all of their time on non-selling activities. Maybe they're working with customers, maybe they're building reports, but it's hard to really generate revenue and new meetings when 65–70% of your time is spent doing something else. Okay, so we're going to be talking about what you can do to really use the 35% of your time to really reach more decision makers. So we'll give you some tips to do that, but also some tools that might help you do it as well. All right, another big challenge is lead volume and quality of the leads. So if you're lucky enough to get a bunch of incoming leads, I'm sure you probably know that a lot of them really stink, and you got to dig through 100 to get to one or two good ones. But the problem is you got to follow up with all of them, because it's really impossible to understand who's good and who's not just by looking at a spreadsheet or in your CRM. So it's a big problem when you're working through a lot of leads. If you're building more of your leads through an outbound approach, obviously quality plays a huge impact. If you're calling people where you're not sure of their direct dial, you're calling the main line. You might be going to that website looking for a main line for 20 minutes to find it. And then by the time you get in touch with that person, you found out that they've left the company 2 years ago when they retired. So a huge problem for a lot of our clients is just the quality of the information that they have in their system and what's going to their sales reps. If you're following up with a lot of bad information, it's going to be hard to really be efficient and get a lot of meetings set up. All right, so another huge challenge is that information is just constantly changing. A database is going to decay. If you're calling a list of 100 people, you call that list next month, it might be 95. So your addressable market is just going to go down and down and down because people are switching companies constantly. So today we're going to be talking about how we can really get around all of this stuff to be really efficient in their efforts. And there's really two things that we're going to be focused on. One, tools that you can use to do it. But don't worry, if you just have a phone and a computer with email, you'll still be able to take some things away in order to be more efficient. All right, so first we're going to start with tools. What's the essential toolkit to really be productive in sales outreach? All right, so good news for a lot of the sales reps is that their companies are investing in them. So most companies spend between $20,000 and $25,000 to help their sales reps be effective. All right, so there's lots of tools out there, and companies are willing to pay if it means that they're going to be getting more back on their investment. And actually right now, 50% of sales teams leverage 5 or more technology applications. So that's good as long as the technology that you're using is relevant and helps you get in touch with more people. So how do you find the best 5, the best 3, if you only have a little bit of money, the best 1 tool to be more productive in your outreach, really fill the funnel to crush your goals? And it's really hard. Okay, it's really hard because there's tons of options out there. So if you look here, there's just like a sales technology stack of just a full landscape of sales and marketing technologies over the last 5 years. You see that in 2011, there was 150 companies in this space. So as a manager, VP, CEO, when you're looking at sales technologies, it's a little bit easier to just cut through the noise and just find the right one for you. Now there's over 3,800. So in 2016, there's over 3,800 sales and marketing technologies. So like, how could you really look at that and decide what's best? I mean, it's really hard, but we think that it's the tools that are going to help you either do 2 things. 1, spend more time selling, or use the time that you have selling as effectively as possible. All right, so what are our basic requirements when looking at those 3,800? Again, it's what's going to help us spend more time selling, or what's going to help us be more efficient. All right, so we think about prospecting. Really, the tools that we're going to get are going to really have to check off 4 bullet points. All right, so the first one is what's going to help us identify our addressable market. So if you go after teachers, you need information on teachers. Information is absolutely key in identifying the right people. If you go after HR professionals, marketing professionals, HR, operations, anything that you go after, you're going to have to find the right contacts and the right information on those people. And that goes into the second bullet point of connections. Okay, how are you going to talk to those people? If you talk to HR people, there's a good chance you could probably get in touch with them on LinkedIn, because that's where HR professionals are living. Same with marketing. They might be living on LinkedIn, but if they're not, if they're IT leaders, how are you going to connect with those individuals? You got to connect where they are. So some easy ways to do it is go to the conferences they're at, but if you can't do that, the simplest way is find the direct dial and find the email address on those people. And direct dial is absolutely critical, and we'll talk about why here in a little bit. But once you get the right information, you can have the right information, but if you stink at sales and you can't really engage those people, you can make 100 calls in a day that are just completely meaningless. So what do you have to do? You have to use something that's going to help you engage those people, all right? Something that's really going to make the messages that you come up with relevant. Big push, obviously lots of companies out there are pushing quantity, like get a lot of calls, but if the calls stink, there's really going to be no point. If you make 100 calls in a day and get 0 results, it's not worth it. We have people who might spend an hour and write 10 absolutely awesome emails and get 2 meetings from those 10 awesome emails. They've taken an hour of their time, but they were able to get 2 meetings. I mean, that's pretty fantastic. So 1 hour of output gets them 2 meetings, where someone else can make 100 calls all day and get 0 meetings. So output is not necessarily a measure of how many outreaches. It's just a matter of your time. But by law, the more you get out there, the better the results are going to be. And that's where scale comes in. If you can find the right people, if you have the right information on them, and if you have the right message, and you can take that to scale and reach out to a lot of people, you're going to be wildly successful. And that's where we think that there's really 3 tools out there that are going to help you do that. All right. So the first tool is something that's going to help you with your pre-call research. Okay. And that's really a B2B contact data provider. So, you know, in order to reach a lot of people, you got to reach out to the right people. You're going to need the right information on those individuals. And we'll go into a little bit more about pre-call research, some of the other things you can do outside of just having a database of the right names and the right email addresses. But having that to start with is really going to help you be wildly successful. Okay. And the other 2 tools that you can have, dialing automation and email automation. So right now, lots of tools out there that will automatically dial a list of names for you. My guys were actually on this tool today, Connect and Sell, where they were able to make 100 calls in a matter of 20 minutes, where if they actually had to pick up the phone and dial the phone 100 times, it could have taken them hours. So lots of tools out there that will help you with it. But even if you can't afford it or you're just a sales rep, again, we'll still be able to find a way where you can get way more outreach, even with just a process. Even if you can't get any of these tools or can't get, you know, a pre-call research tool, a dialing automation tool, or an email automation tool will help you at least be more efficient. So dialing automation, get a lot of calls out in a day. Email automation, same idea, but just with email. And when you combine the 2 of these, it can be really powerful. But email automation does 2 things. One, it can get a lot of emails out in a day, or it can help you template all of your emails so you have something repeatable, and you could just use a process to constantly reach out to people with the right message.
As a practitioner, what are you guys using for pre-call research and email automation? And do you guys have a power dialer on top of Connect and Sell? Is that something that you're using as well?
So I think we're using Connect and Sell's power dialer. So like for our pre-call research, we use a combination of things, but for the most part, we use our tool to find the right people. So we use our tool to find the direct dials, the email addresses that we need. But for the research that we need to do, for the most part, we're only focusing on the company. Okay?
Okay.
So like pretty simple, the company website. We think that if we can know enough about the company, we can take the same message that we learn about the company and not just apply it to one person, but maybe 20 or 50 different people. Okay.
Yeah. Are you
in this sort of, go ahead.
For some context, who you? So you're if you can just give us like your target or your wheelhouse. I mean, maybe size of the company, type of person that you're selling into. This way we can understand. So you're only doing research on the company. You know, maybe that's right for some people in here, maybe not for others. But it'd be good to know what your individual process looks like real quick.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So here at ZoomInfo, we sell to B2B sales and marketing teams. Anyone that needs information for prospecting or for email outreach. So do well with large sales teams. That would probably be an ideal fit. So usually larger sales teams, or a company that, you know, their marketing team is doing a good job supporting their sales reps and trying to drive a lot of leads through email marketing. So the beautiful thing about what we do is, you know, if you're targeting someone who runs a sales team, there could be just a ton of people to reach out to within an organization.
Yeah.
All right. So that's why we reach out and sort of we research the company, because we could take that same message about what we learned to the company and just apply it to multiple people. Whereas if we research the individual people, gosh, it would take us, I mean, if we research 20 people on LinkedIn, it could take us 3 hours. By that time, 3 hours without a call is not efficient.
And what are you doing for email? Any acceleration tools or automation tools?
Yeah, so right now we use ToutApp. So we've templated a lot of emails on ToutApp, and we've also set up our own campaigns where we can automatically deploy our own emails. We do some things to make those messages really relevant too, like little fields in Salesforce that we fill out, like the marketing automation tool that they use, the competition that we're working with in their space. And since we sell really information to help people prospect, another field that we look for is like who they would be targeting. Like, do they target IT executives? We want to let them know that we have good information on IT executives.
Interesting.
Yep, and if we have some time at the end, I can walk you through like a 3-step campaign that we use too.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right. So we're talking about, just just getting more outreach, but again, it has to be quality. And again, if you're reaching out with the same tired message, like, hey, I'm Scott Luttrell, this is what I do, you're not going to get any results. Like, it's got to be all about them. All right, you got to find something that's relevant to them, that's really going to get them to think, because that's how you're going to really stand apart. Your competition is probably reaching out to the same people that you are. So how do you really rise above and come up with something relevant? The way we do it, Max, is, again, we look for company information, because when you're going after large companies, you can just take it and apply it to a lot of people. But we're always coming up with something relevant about the person, okay? Because if when we're not just giving a blanket statement about the company and trying to apply it to sales, marketing, operation. Like, our message for sales is very different than our message for marketing, because sales cares about direct dials, and marketing cares about the quality of the email addresses, making sure that their database is up to date. So if we took the same, if we were talking about keeping a database up to date and sent that message to a sales professional, they wouldn't care. That sort of goes into that last little, the 67% of people find content related to their job function valuable. So make sure whatever you're doing, it's relevant to the person. All right, so again, strategic messaging wins. Here's some things that you can look at when researching a person. Max, sort of making me think there. I think, for who I go after, who my team goes after, tend to go after companies with 50 or more employees, large sales teams. I think that company model works really well. If you only have a few buyers within an organization, it might be a better use of time to just research the person and come up with some really relevant messages for that person. And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot more research, I'd say, typically than I'd say most people, because the type of sell that we do. So we're looking for bigger deals and not a lot of transactional type stuff. And we want to learn more about the individual before we send out the message. But, obviously we have our formula on the 10-80-10 that, we tout frequently, so in our, our webinars and our content, but, personalizing the intro and the outro of the emails, and then creating a template within the body of that email that's focused on a couple common denominators, whether it's industry, title, location, things like that. So, you've laid it out on here pretty well, but you are finding out all this firmographic data and demographic data and using that in your outreach. So I think if you have the right person at the right time, the right message, you have a much higher chance of success. And so how do you do that in a scalable manner or semi-scale? Like, you want it to scale, but you don't want to automate it too much where it becomes ineffective. So you gotta straddle that line between efficiency and effectiveness, when you're doing this. And so there's a lot of things that you're talking about, like leveraging that tool, Connect and Sell, different ways to kind of get that edge while still making sure that you're effective in your outreach.
Completely agree, yeah. We used to, well, she still works with us, but we used to have a BDR who was setting up demos. She's now one of our better sales reps, but she earned the nickname Legend because she was setting up 70 demos a month consistently. And all she did was email people with really, really relevant messages. It's like you were saying, like, she probably didn't get a ton of outreach out every day, but it was really good outreach. And if she would have tried to get a ton and just come with a blanket message, I would have probably think that her results would have gone way down. So there is like you got to figure out that tightrope to walk to really where you're optimizing things.
Yeah, it depends on how big your deal sizes are. I mean, if you're doing massive deal sizes and you're only working with 10 or 20 companies, but there are a lot of stakeholders involved, you want to make sure you're hyper-personalizing those emails. If you are doing more SMB or mid-market type stuff, and you need to reach out to, you need to basically build a really fat pipeline, then, you need to do that in a more scalable manner. So I think it definitely depends on who you're selling to, the type of sales process you have, but you need to straddle that line regardless of the effectiveness and the efficiency of your outbound message.
Definitely. completely agree. So with that, like when it comes to efficiency, in addition to just knowing the information, for what we do, I think it's really important that the tools that we use all live within our environment. So like if you're using Salesforce, the email tool that you use, the data tool that you use, you're going to want it to live right in Salesforce. So you're not toggling over, have five different tabs open up in your computer. If you use LinkedIn, you want your information to just be in LinkedIn. And just a little bit of a shameless plug, we do have a direct integration where you can find direct dials and email addresses when you're looking at a LinkedIn profile. But yeah, like anything that you do, you want it to be seamless. You want it to be really, part of your process, so you're not jumping all over the place to get the information that you need quickly. All right, so here you go. Here's your hack sales your hack sales quote of the day. Failure to plan is planning to fail. So I know everyone's heard that, but it's really true. In order to come up with something repeatable where you can look at what you're doing and understand what you can do to drive the pipeline, you've got to have a plan. All right. So what we've done, and Max, it sounds like you have your own cadence, but we've come up with our own cadence here that we try to stick to. Okay. So this is our 10-day cadence at ZoomInfo. So when we put someone into our funnel, we're going to start reaching out to someone. This is the process that we try to stick to. Okay. And it's really aggressive because you see over 10 days, there's probably 15 different times where we're reaching out to the same person. Okay, and it's probably not the best fit for a lot of people, but by the end of it, by day 10, that person really knows that you want to get in touch with them, and they'll do two things. They'll say, stop it, or yes. So obviously, the yes is way better than no, but there's a lot of value in a no too, because if we get a no, at least it's not an unknown. We can take that person off our list. We can try someone else. Do you have something like this?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say no is the second best answer. You almost want to get to that as fast as you can, so that you can move on. I had a question though. What is PBR on these on the email image?
You drink a Pabst Blue Ribbon and then you send an email. No, it's an acronym. It's an acronym that we use at ZoomInfo. I mean, there's so many acronyms at sales, but it's purpose, benefit, request. The purpose of my email is this. Here's how I think we can help you. Do you have 10 minutes to connect on Thursday or Friday?
And what's the one without the PBR?
So the thing about the PBRs is they're relevant.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're relevant messages to our buyers. They're not, hey, we're ZoomInfo. Here's what we do. Okay. So I can actually give you a real world sort of idea here. I'm just going to X out of here for 1 second. So here's a sample PBR that we use. And I was talking about email automation earlier. Here's just a sales hack. Instead of templating your emails through a tool that you don't have, if you just have Outlook, you can template a lot of your emails just with a signature line. Okay, so if you can't afford a marketing automation tool, sales automation tool, you can just come up with it right through a signature line. So here's something repeatable. This would be the first PBR that we send. Your new business reps are 146% more likely to catch buyers live, and then we say reps from, and then we just ask our reps to fill in the competition that we're working with here. So they're only researching one thing, but it's really relevant to them.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. There's a app right there. There's a free version without having to do a free trial anywhere. If any of these companies that's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, if you're writing the same emails over and over and over again, or you're copying and pasting it, just do that signature line trick. We implemented a sales automation tool probably last year, but before that, I probably had 50 different signature lines that I would just send. So I had my follow-up signature line, I had my initial email, I had my here's your order signature line, free trial signature line. You just find yourself spending so much time writing the same email over and over again. Just turn it into a signature line.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's really cool. So you got your PBR. What's the one next to the PBR?
So the one next to the PBR is more of a blanket email. All right, so it's not super relevant to them. But I was telling you earlier how we have something that integrates with LinkedIn. So what we'll do is we'll go onto LinkedIn and just cut out a picture of them and just say, hey, like, would having this type of information right within LinkedIn help your reps? So it's not like really relevant where we're doing a ton of research, but that's our day 2 email. Now above that, you see that on day 1 we left a voicemail. Day 2 and day 3, we just ghost call them. We call that a ghost call. So, if you left that person a voicemail 4 days in a row, might be a little bit aggressive with the amount of outreach that you're doing. So we just like to ghost call them and hope to catch those people live. This is where our power dialer comes in. Again, like when you have a lot of people going through this, having a power dialer and not having to dial 100 names manually can save us a ton of time, because we could put 100 names through this in the morning and it go through it in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and we could do it in the afternoon too. So we get 200 dials out in a day.
And your LinkedIn is just a connection and then an in-mail?
Yes. The in-mail might come later as long as they connect with us. If they accept our invitation, then we might do a PBR directly. Instead, you see on day 6 how it says PBR, we might send that message directly on LinkedIn. It just depends on the rep, but just as long as the outreach is there, we like it. But you could do it on LinkedIn, or you could just do it through email. If they don't accept your email, obviously you just send them another email. But if they do, it's just, they're checking LinkedIn, so it is a medium that they're using, and hopefully we're likely to respond to you that way.
Purpose benefit request, PBR.
Boom.
There you go.
Yeah, and so if we get 100 people through this, typically we're setting up about 5 meetings, and we're probably, and sometimes more, just depending on, who's doing it, but, we probably get 5 to 10 no's as well. So the thing I love about this is it's a process. It's not like I'm going to call this person day 1 and then like, oh, something came up, like I'll call that person 3 weeks later, and then maybe I'll email them a week after that. It's just something that's repeatable. When you have something that's repeatable, so is your pipeline is going to be repeatable too. You're going to know exactly how many meetings you're going to get if you run someone through a process like this. It doesn't become like a question mark where like, well, I have a few days to prospect this week. It's just, no, if you run it through, you're going to get 5 yeses. And if you need 5 new meetings, it's a great thing to do. Do you have something like this for your team? Like, are you doing something like this, or is it a different type of approach?
Yeah, we have our own cadence. I mean, we do a lot more with LinkedIn and Twitter. I'd say that, a lot of what I want to do is stay on people's radars. And so we'll get into Twitter, we'll follow them, we'll favorite their stuff, we'll retweet their stuff, we'll respond to their stuff. We will share links with them on Twitter or LinkedIn that they would find relevant that aren't, part of a sales pitch or anything like that. We will connect with them on LinkedIn, shoot them a note, like their comments or their articles or whatnot. But basically, something you can do to stay on their radar so that when you do connect with them, it's like, oh, where have I heard this person's name before? Or, this person's providing value to me, even if it's just like, kind of fake value. It's like, it's vanity value, where it's like, oh, this person likes all my stuff. I might as well just, I might as well talk to them. I kind of like this person because they are, supporting me or something like that. It's like how you feel when somebody likes a photo of you on Facebook. It's like, oh, thanks, thanks for the like. You're almost doing them little favors here and there, and you're staying on their radar. So we do a lot more social in ours. We use information from their LinkedIn and their social in our phone calls and emails. And, so that's kind of like, even our cadence is almost part of our research in our outreach.
Gotcha. How's it working for you? Do you know like what your hit rate is?
It works really well, but our sales process is not a sales process, SaaS sales process. So it's a little bit different. We're working with marketers to get event budget. Mainly what we're selling is, sponsorship opportunities and event opportunities. We don't sell into companies to sell tickets for anything, but we do for sponsorships. We already have relationships with these people, so it's about It's about rekindling the relationship. Sometimes it's about building the relationship or fostering the relationship a little bit more. It's not your average SaaS sell,
Yep.
but we used to do this in a more automated way for Udemy, for our individual instructors. We've done it in a more enterprise way for our publishers that we work with, and then I've helped companies set these things up, frequently. And it kind of depends on the company. It depends on the rep who's monitoring it. You can only do so much. Your reps have to really practice this religiously, and you need to hire people who have that kind of like intuition, understanding what's going to resonate with the person on the other end. There's a lot of people in sales who probably shouldn't be in sales that don't have those social awareness skills. But if you've mastered that as a salesperson, you can really nail the cadence and understand understand your audience, who you're talking to, who you should be sending a funny breakup email to versus who you should be sending, a more kind of formal email to. And I think that's what makes a rep really successful, is really understanding their audience tone. And like the topic for today's webinar, the tactics that you could use in 2016. I mean, I use Twitter all the time and stuff that people are liking on social, whether it's Twitter or LinkedIn, but I use that to understand people's tones, not just to understand what they like and how to relate to them, but how they like to interact with other people. If you can understand that, and then you reach out in a way that that's familiar to them, you have a much better chance of getting into the friend zone with them and building a relationship with them than you do if you're coming from a completely rigid point of view and they are not rigid people. I mean, you can use this information to your benefit, and it's all part of your cadence. So again, the research that you get from adding social into your cadence and the understanding of how the other person interacts are two huge benefits, but it's a little more time consuming. So again, depending on your deal size and what you're trying to do, I think you have to balance that effectiveness and that efficiency. Bigger deal sizes, you want to do more of that research. You want to add more of that some stuff that isn't as automatable, or if that's even a word, into your process. So
Yeah.
Smaller deals, you can get away with just phone and email. Bigger deals, I think you really need to surround them.
Yep. One of the things that our reps have had a lot of success doing is just going in super low. So like if we're reaching out to a VP of sales that runs a team of 500 or 1,000 people, we might go in at the sales rep level, not hoping to like sell to that person, but just fact gather. What's this person like? What are some of the things going on there? And it's a trade. Like we'll give them some value. Like typically it's a trial to our tool, but like lots of times we're able to get some really good information. Like they've got this initiative going on, and that person's not the nicest, so be really direct, or they're really nice. Like you get the sense of what they're all about. Outside of social, and I'm sure we have people like you're probably going after marketing sales leaders who are probably a little bit more active on social media, but sometimes if you're going after like a chief information security officer, like a head of a company, it can be pretty tough to find that information that you're looking for. And sometimes finding one friendly person within the company can be really helpful.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is just talking about content going forward. You don't really see it on this because it's not really part of our cadence in like our just like our nail them approach. But after this, we do send content on an ongoing basis. So we might nurture these people. I might send an email out once a month after that with some real content. And what we found is that like no one's really responding to that content, but like we'll see other people from these companies start to come in as incoming leads. So like one of my guys today, like he's been going after someone for the last few months here, and today that person came in as an incoming lead, and like they didn't bother responding to his email, but they said like, yeah, one of my sales reps told me that I should reach out. So like subconsciously, they probably, our sales rep was reaching out to them. They didn't really recognize that, but like that along with their one sales rep that told them to reach out to us, it got the meeting.
Yeah. That's cool.
All right, so let's just going back. If you can't get dialing automation, if you can't get email automation, it's just right that you build the right list and have the right people to reach out to. And the reason why is you're going to get pulled 1,000 different ways. So if you only have a limited time to prospect, you got to just reach the right people in a really efficient way. Or if you have a ton of time, you might as well make it really efficient and just reach way more buyers. All right, so Vorsight, they're like an outbound sales prospecting company where they set up meetings for their clients. They've done some research and they found that on average, if you're dialing a direct dial, it takes 12 dials and about 5 minutes to make a connection with a decision maker, compared to 17 dials and 22 minutes when dialing a switchboard number. So obviously, if you're going to be doing a lot of prospecting, it might make sense to invest in some really good direct dial information, because you'll be able to make way more connections and reach way more live decision makers. Any thoughts on that? Have you found the same? Are you able to connect with buyers, or does your team even cold call?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these larger organizations, I think, are doing rip-outs of their internal phone systems, or at least even, turning off their voicemail. So, they're even historically thinking about it, like, one of these people getting a voicemail probably isn't to their desk phone, probably isn't that relevant. What's happening now is you're seeing some of these, I think there's Mast Mobile is one of the companies, Truly Wireless is another, but there's a lot of companies that are turning your cell phone into your work phone. So you have one personal phone, and there's either an external SIM card or an app or something that switches your work phone onto your personal, so you can toggle between. So now there's a direct line to you as an individual employee and you as a individual person, but there's no like landline office phone for these people, at least the ones that you're trying to get in touch with. So a lot has changed. I mean, there's no real use for Yellow Pages anymore because all the information's on the internet. People are getting spammed, via calls and emails way more than they ever did in the past. So things are changing. If you can get a direct dial, if they can get a heads up, I'm a big fan of, obviously, giving them a heads up before you're going to get on the call. But if you can get the cold call and you can set up the discovery call, I think that'll be the most successful way to go about it. And it's still like highly relevant. There's, cold calling isn't going away. It's just adapting. It's just changing.
Yeah, and I think as long as you're coming with the right message, you're going to have a lot of success. Again, just don't puke on them. Be relevant. Come up with something that's really going to get their attention, or else you've got no chance and you're just bothering them.
And understand the steps. Like, you get on the phone with someone for the first time, you're not like closing the deal right there. You need to know. You need to know what the next step is and keep that as your goal. That is what you should be focusing on, not closing the deal on that call. You got their time, you got their attention. Now use that to get more of their time and more of their attention, or facilitate what you're trying to facilitate. But if you waste that time trying to do too much, you're pretty much screwing yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, I try to sell the meeting. Like I don't even want to have a conversation with them there, because I'm in prospecting mode, and I want to continue to prospect, because if I'm lucky enough to get someone on the line, like, I mean, I'd like to have that conversation, but more so I'd rather just get the meeting, because I'm interrupting this person in the middle of the day. The chances I get them with 30 minutes is probably slim to none. So just push for that 15-minute initial conversation there, and then just keep going. Yeah. I mean, and once you get that first win, once you get that meeting set up, you're hot. And that's the time to just call more people.
Yep, I'm with you.
Great. All right, so wrapping up here, what can you do? I think, one, get the right information, be relevant, and you got to prospect. Just make sure you're reaching out constantly with some sort of a repeatable cadence that if you run 100 people through or 50 people through, you will get X meetings. Because if you don't have a cadence, it's just going to be a big unknown, and you're going to find that your pipeline is just a wave. It's going to go up and down and up and down and up and down. So come up with something repeatable so you always have new deals coming into your pipeline. So You know, like, and I think like as we start to like get more relevant messaging and we look at things differently, I think like the traditional KPIs of like, hey, how much are you creating, you know, with your prospecting efforts, I think it's going to start to change to some different KPIs. And I think this one is, there's one, attempt to connect rate. How many hours is your team spending on failed attempts? If you have something repeatable, you're going to be able to figure this out, and you're going to be able to look at it and say, where do I need to change my messaging, or where do I need to change, you know, what I'm doing? You know, my buyers aren't responding to my emails, but they are responding to my LinkedIn messages. How do I, you know, I'm going to put more time into that. By having something repeatable, you'll really be able to see this. You'll be able to see where you're getting the results and sort of tweak and adjust things as you go. And the other thing about hours is you'll be able to see, you know, it's like what I talked, like, yeah, prospecting is not a matter of how many times you reach out. It's more like your output of time. You know, if you write 10 good emails in an hour that are awesome and you get 2 meetings, that's better than making 200 calls in a day to get 2 meetings because you spent way less time doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, let me just give you like a quick idea as we wrap up here, like how we help our clients. So ZoomInfo, not a silver bullet, you know, not like the shiny new technology, pretty straightforward in what we do. Have a very unique way of capturing direct dial information and email address information on the prospects our clients are looking to reach. So have a very unique way of doing it where we take data right from the source, and that's a signature line. So all of our contacts have been updated within the last year, and we're gathering the data based on when people are sending an email from their account. So like when I say 100% of our contacts are verified within the last year, 100% of the contacts on our list are going to have a direct dial email address, and they will have sent an email to someone within our free user group within the last year. So we have a lot of information. If you're thinking about prospecting, having a lot of people, having a lot of options, if you're going after the VP of talent at an organization, if you prioritize that person over the HR manager, that's the type of person that we want to deliver you. So you're getting the right message to the right person, the one where, you know, you come up with this message. We want it to resonate to the person you're reaching out to. So that's our spiel, and we're international. So we have data on all countries, all different sorts of organizations, whether you're going after small, medium, large-size companies. We're going to be able to find a bunch of different people within there for you, the right direct dials and the right email addresses. So with that, any good questions come across?
We have a lot of people asking for the recording of the webinar. And we had a couple questions that Alicia is sending to me right now, but I want to know more about, you know, your particular process and how, as a manager, you get your reps to stick to it. So how do you make sure that they're following through on that cadence? How do you make sure that, are you logging activities in a tool? What does that look like? Is there something you're using to track their progress and metrics? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, so we get there's 2 things. We get a daily report every day with how many unique touches they made in Salesforce, okay? So there's really 2 things that we're doing. One way is like our broader approach. And what we do with that is we take a list and we pour it into that cadence that I showed you earlier, okay? Do you want me to just actually take you and show you the real world version here in Salesforce for a second? Because I think it might be relevant.
Sure.
Cool. Let me just log in. So we actually, some of the fields that I'm talking about, we actually figure out in Salesforce and enter that information into Salesforce. So it becomes part of an automatic email cadence. All right. So like we figure out the competition, who they're targeting, and our emails automatically deploy with that information. Like, hey, knowing that you're, you know, we're having a lot of success with these companies in your space, when can we talk? Or, you know, we have a really unique way of capturing direct dials and email addresses on IT professionals at enterprise companies. Guessing that's what you're targeting, right? When can we talk? So like we've set up fields in Salesforce where we basically fill this information in, and it automatically just becomes part of our cadence, okay? And then with these people, we'll just plug them into a power dialer and start reaching out. At the same time, you know, those are like, we're just going to like sort of blast, but with somewhat of a relevant message, so we're getting, you know, some results. So here you'll see, I'm just going to go in. So like here are the people that they're targeting: transportation, shipping, logistics, and supply chain leaders. This becomes part of our automatic emails. The other thing that does too is like we're working with XPO, DHL, and Ryder, and we think we could have some success with you too. And by the way, we integrate with Eloqua, who we know we're using. know you're using. So these things we make part of our Salesforce. We do a little bit of research. We fill this in. It becomes part of our automatic email campaigns that go out. And then we just use a power dialer to go through the names. At the same time, we have some really high-level individuals, just like you do, like that really high-value prospect, where it does take a little bit of a different approach. And we're not just going through that basic cadence. We're trying to come up with really relevant messages, things that are going to get them, things to help us sort of stand above our competition. But if we get a sales director through that other process, we're going to be really happy to talk to that sales director.
And then, so that's really interesting. So how are you breaking up your territories? Because I see you have location, you have industry, you have a lot of different things. Are you doing geographically? Are you doing it through industry? What does that look like for you?
So at ZoomInfo, there are two territories. There's, and it's based on revenue, 25 million and below and 25 million and above. But it's an open territory. And so like our reps get 100 accounts in their names at any given time. And it's really nice because there's no excuses. It's no like, well, my territory stinks. It's like, well, you could work something in Chicago, Philly, Colorado. Like you really decide your territory and you're really in control of your own destiny here.
Okay. We have some product questions from people, so we'll send you the questions afterwards. But we'll let you get to those one-on-one separately. Just a little bit more on the tactical stuff. So you took us through your individual cadence. I guess like what do you think your secret sauce is? Like what do you, as a sales team, what's your like one go-to thing that you think you do really well that you would recommend? And is it something in email? Is it something on phone? Is it the PBR? What would be your go-to that you can say, okay, we made a lot of money off this one thing?
I mean, there's just no silver bullet.
No silver bullet.
Yeah, I mean, like the one thing that I think we've done well is just hired really smart, motivated reps who want to be successful, like, and who also get people, like, who aren't, it's like what you're talking about, like, they're just good. But I think we've also come up with, like, that process that we came up with, it just simplifies things because it doesn't make someone reinvent the wheel when we have 4 relevant emails that can, like, that aren't just like, hey, we're ZoomInfo, here's what we do. But like all they have to do is figure out the competition. All they have to figure out is who they target. They plug that into Salesforce, and they're starting to send really relevant messages automatically instead of having to like reinvent the wheel every time. Like, gosh, what am I going to say this time in my relevant message?
Yeah, definitely about that intuition and hiring those people that have that, looking for that. I mean, that could be almost a whole other webinar on that topic, about what to look for and how to tell if somebody has that. But we'll save that for later, but I think we've covered a lot of ground on this one. And thanks a lot, Scott. That was awesome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you have any questions for myself or Scott, again, they're at ZoomInfo on Twitter. We are at SalesHacker on Twitter. You can ask using the hashtag SHWebinar on Twitter. And then if you ask them on GoToWebinar right now, we'll get them over and get them answered for you. So, and Scott, what's your email in case anybody wants to ping you directly?
Yeah, feel free to reach out. It's scott.littrell, Littrell, @zoominfo.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Thank you,
Appreciate
everybody.
It,
and we were happy to have you. And thanks again. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Take care.